This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everybody. My name is Patrick Gilchrist. I'm the Warning Coordination Meteorologist with the National Weather Service office in Glasgow, Montana. And this is your Eastern Montana Drought and Climate Outlook briefing. Today is Thursday, May 20th, 2021, and all information is current as of that date and time. So quick recap on how we got here as far as drought conditions go. Really had a very dry spring across eastern Montana and really much of the northern high plains extending into the Dakotas as well. This even goes back into 2020. December of 2020 was also very much on the dry side, but just looking at the period January through April of this year, you can see that record dry conditions extended throughout much of North Dakota, getting into eastern Montana, where Dawson County also saw its record driest conditions. Much of the surrounding area across the eastern, especially the northeast corner of Montana, saw much below normal precipitation as well. And you can see that even areas in the northwest saw those conditions as well. We look at the southern tier of Montana, however, and you can see that they've been really getting the precipitation when they need it. The Billings area down towards Red Lodge, Bighorn County have really gotten the precip when they need it, so they haven't seen nearly as dry conditions. Now, however, in the eastern side, we've got a lot of concerns and with an ongoing drought. Temperature-wise, during the same time period, January through April, again, we've been very much on the warm side. So really, this far for the spring, we've seen warm and dry conditions, again, which have not helped in any fashion and has really worsened the drought conditions. Quick look at where we've gotten for the month of May. You can see departure from normal temperature here, a little bit of a mixed bag. It seemed like plus or minus a degree is pretty common. A few areas a little bit on the warmer side, but really not that far off of the normal type temperatures so far for the month of May. And precipitation wise, however, it's been again very spotty. We have had one precipitation event that impacted portions of eastern Montana. We're going to talk a little bit about that more in detail here, but you can see pretty big differences between the have and the have-nots. Again, most strikingly, that far northeast corner, Sheridan County, the further north and east you went away from that precip event, the less precipitation they got, and it was a very dramatic down glide. As you can see here, the Poplar area got hit, was kind of the main bullseye of precipitation for that event. And the further north and east you went, it dropped off considerably and very quickly. So very spotty precipitation-wise so far for the month. And again, unfortunately, the precipitation that we did receive did not put in very much of a dent into the overall drought concerns, but it did provide some welcome short-term relief. So quick snapshot of Glasgow and Billings proper. And you can see here again, Glasgow getting that one little precipitation event earlier on in the month of May, and then very much flatline. It's been very dry since then, and you can see we're sitting at 1.72 inches of precipitation, where normal would be just a little bit under 4 inches of precip. So again, a pretty big deficit here for us to overcome, and something we're staring at as we get further into the summertime months. Billings been in better shape, as I discussed and mentioned before. They have gotten precipitation when they've needed it. You can see they don't have a lot of the flat lines in their observed precipitation, which is the light green. But they are, however, as of late, falling a little bit behind. And you can see they're at 4.22 inches of precipitation on the year, and they should be a little bit closer to 5. So again, a little bit of a deficit there in Billings area, but something that's a little bit going to be a little bit more easily overcome as we get into the spring months, a little bit less concern for that Billings area. So this was the precip event that I was alluding to earlier that brought a little bit of relief to portions of eastern Montana. You can see this was a 3-day precipitation total ending on May 10th. So really the 7th through the 10th, we got a good precip event. And again, it was targeted really around that Poplar area. They saw the most substantial accumulations with that. And of course, the further north and east you went, you can see Plentywood just 600ths. I believe I saw a report out of Westby, they only got about 300ths of an inch of precipitation. So again, Very spotty, very hit and miss. Wasn't terribly widespread. And again, 1.36 inches poplar area. Again, very good, very timely, given how substantial the drought conditions have been so far this spring. But again, even though it's a good precip event, it wasn't enough to really overcome the overall deficits and to change a whole lot as far as drought concerns across eastern Montana. So quick look, big picture, snow depth. You can see we still do have mountain snow out there, not sitting too badly as far as snowpack goes. If we go here to by basin, you can see the St. Mary's Basin, which feeds the Milk River, at 95%. Smith, Judith, Musselshell at 78%, Upper Yellowstone 71%. So a little bit below that 100% mark, but still not bad considering we are past what we would consider peak snowpack. And this is just a quick snapshot of the Smith, Judith, and Musselshell basins, but you can see that the snowpack usually peaks out somewhere in late April, early May timeframe, but really, late April. And you can see we've been definitely on the decline. But again, the good news is that we do have a substantial precipitation event to discuss here that's going to be impacting most of the state of Montana, in fact, the entire state of Montana here over the next several days. And again, it looks very wet. So we're optimistic that we will see another shot with snowpack, which again will help bring conditions up and again, provide that much needed source of water for irrigation out here on the plains. So quick look at our drought status. You see much of that northern tier of the U.S. again in that extreme drought category, and that of course impacts much of northeast Montana and eastern Montana, extending into North Dakota. Have a lot of ongoing long-term concerns there. And as we zoom in a little bit closer, one thing I do want to draw your attention to is that we do now see exceptional drought across portions of central North Dakota. That is a little bit of a change that we have been seeing, and that is, of course, as bad as it gets on the drought monitor. And it's worth noting that exists. And right now, it's not impacting eastern Montana or any of the state of Montana, but it's worth noting that we are seeing those B4 exceptional drought conditions out there in the state of North Dakota. And you can see not a whole lot has changed here over the last week or two as far as our drought conditions go in eastern Montana, but we do continue to see that D3 extreme drought covering a good chunk of eastern Montana, all the way from Baker up towards Glasgow and Malta areas, and then north and east of there. Still seeing a lot of drought concerns. And I also want to point you to these two links here, the survey123.arcgis.com. links. I know there's a lot of information there, but if you Google a drought impact report, either Montana or national, there's a really good way for you as the members of the public, as ag producers especially, to provide feedback to the people who are making the decisions regarding the drought monitor and what the current status is. And if you have any kind of hard numbers that you can pass along or provide any information, I want to just remind you the importance of this, that those reports are taken very seriously. They're looked at very hard, and they do weigh in substantially as to what the drought conditions are on the ground. There's just nothing that beats ground truth data, and that is really your best mechanism to pass that information along to the decision makers. So encourage you to utilize that. Again, I talked a little bit about this earlier, but we do have a substantial precipitation event that is setting up right now. And in fact, over the last 24 hours, really last night, we saw some really good precipitation up in the far northeast corner again. Looks like anywhere from a couple of tenths to a half inch or more of precipitation fell for some showers at the embedded thunderstorms in that neck of the woods. Again, very grateful that we're seeing that precipitation now, but this is just the beginning of the story for out here on the plains in eastern Montana. If you look closer to central Montana, you can see some really high numbers out there. And what's interesting is that this is actually falling as snow. Havre area, it's snowing all the way down through Great Falls, all along this the plains just downwind of the Rocky Mountain front is seeing a really good snow event. Very unusual for this time of the year. I mean, we're in late May It's not normal that we would see a plain snow event during this time frame, but we are seeing it right now, and certainly a lot of impacts out there as of midday on Thursday, May 20th. But again, we're very grateful for this precipitation. We certainly can use it. So over the next 7 days, we do have those twin systems that are coming through. We got a big low pressure system that's going to impact much of the western United States. Within that overall broad low pressure, we've got a pair of systems that's going to drive significant precip and snowfall across the state of Montana. First one gets going between now and roughly Friday night, and then it looks like we'll have a really brief respite on Saturday between systems, and then things pick up for Sunday into Monday as well. Again, looks wet, and it's even cold and wet conditions, and again, this is a real reason to feel a little bit more optimistic that we are going to see at least some relief from the ongoing drought conditions. So we feel very good about this. Again, we're very grateful for this precipitation that's on our doorstep here. And again, mountain snowfall and that very unusual plain snowfall, at least with this first round here over the next 24 hours or so, or a little bit better, to see that out in the central part of Montana is a little bit unusual. Could see a little bit of a dry slot, and that's when we have those low pressure systems as they spin in a counterclockwise fashion. They can grab drier air and kind of wrap some dry air into it, and that can make for a very substantial change as far as having precipitation than not having precipitation, as that drier air really wraps into that low pressure center. Could come into play a little bit with this. Right now it's a little bit up in the air, but it's just something to watch for. And of course, you know, with the nature of this briefing being kind of bigger picture, I would encourage you to monitor the latest forecast for details as we get rolling into this event. You know, certainly things are going to change as we get the low pressure centers to develop, and we get a little bit better track on them. So pay close attention to your trusted weather source. And of course, this is that snowfall I was alluding to as well. Looks like anywhere from 12 to 18 inches along much of the Front Range and those higher peaks. So again, some good addition for the snowpack, but of course, it's going to cause some concerns out here on the plains for any kind of travel that's trying to go on. I've heard of some stories of some power outages already. So a lot of impacts, of course, with that heavy wet snow and you know, having trees that have already budded. So got a lot of concerns there. Looking beyond 7 days, you know, it does look fairly unsettled for that first week. When we get beyond that, and we're talking May 27th through June 2nd, we are looking at a pretty big bullseye for below normal temperatures. However, a little bit of a split with the eastern half or so of Montana looking for more normal type precipitation, which again is good news for those of us in the east. This is our wet time. This is when we would expect to get our most precipitation there. So that's really not discouraging at all. However, the western half of the state is more favored for below normal precipitation amounts in that 8 to 14 day time frame. Our 3-month drought outlook, again, unfortunately, it's very much in line with what we have been calling for, where we're expecting the drought to persist across eastern Montana and even develop in that south central area. I was talking about Billings region there, where they've been getting the precipitation. The expectation is, with the long-term pattern, that they will probably be slipping in towards drought conditions, and that's true for the western Montana as well. So we are looking for either the drought to persist or to trend towards a drought for the entire state of Montana. So even though we have this good news in the short term, the long term continues to be very much on the pessimistic side as far as the drought. June, July, and August, again, pretty strong signal here where we're looking for above normal temperatures and below normal precipitation for the state of Montana. So no relief in the long term. And then as we get into the fall months, September, October, November, again, really continuing with much of the same, better chances for above normal temperatures and below normal precipitation. So again, we got a lot to feel more optimistic about in the short term as far as getting some precipitation in, especially for those crops and for the forage lands and grass. But it does look like as we go forward more in the longer term, outside of that 2-week time frame, that we are probably looking at most likely warm and dry conditions lasting through the summer and into the fall. So again, with a lot of weather out there right now, please pay close attention to your trusted weather source, especially as we get towards this weekend, because there is a lot going on with some of the plain snowfall, some of the heavier precipitation expected. And of course, as we get closer to that, the forecast will become a little bit more dialed and confidence will go up. So please check us out. Please monitor our social media. We'll be putting out information about the storm system as well. And with that, we will see you next month. Thank you.